Late Night Health continues. I'm really looking forward to this part of the show. About almost 40 years ago, I met a young man who had a public relations company. I was doing radio shows in Los Angeles, talk shows, and he pitched me and was probably one of the first people to talk to me about food. And his name is Leo Pearlstein. We're going to talk about his book, Adventures in PR, with a rare collection of many classic celebrity photos. I was looking at Jane Mansfield in here and Bud and Abbott Costello. Bud, Abbott and Costello. We'll do it that way. Leo, thank you for bringing me from all the interviews I've ever done, Mr. Artichoke.
I remember that. It wasn't easy to promote artichokes, and you were one of the best interviewers at the time, believe me.
Well, and I'm not one of the best interviewers now.
Well, give you a chance now to see how your questions are.
All right, we'll see how that goes. First of all, you're 95 years old. You've worked in PR, in the marketing area, for more than 60 years. You just recently closed your company.
Just about a year and a half or 2 years ago. I've lost track of time already.
Oh, my goodness. And for the most part, you promoted healthy living by promoting good foods. Am I correct?
I did. I happen to have had, happened to grow and develop, that I was handling the state of California Department of Agriculture had several commodities, and they had a marketing act, and I was lucky to get some of the commodities growing, the produce and the fruits and vegetables, seafood and turkeys. And one thing led to another, because once you get started in an industry, you have to learn everything you can about it. And then it grew and grew. So I formed within my agency, mostly for academic acceptance, I made it Western Research Kitchens. And I did hire a home economist, and I had a dietitian that was available. I even had a doctor and a food technologist that I used to call on particular projects. So it grew, and we ended up with about 90% of the products that we promoted were food products. Luckily for me, except for a few mistakes I made in the early years, I had healthy products. In fact, after a while, I didn't even pitch anything that I didn't think was good for you, honestly. So that's how it developed.
An exciting life in the terms of helping to keep people healthy by promoting good products. Let's talk about working with celebrities. Jane Mansfield, was she easy to work with?
Actually, she was terrific. What a surprise. In those days, after Marilyn Monroe, I think she was being groomed in that same area there. She was not a dumb blonde. She was a smart blonde, very gracious, a very good hostess at home, very talented. She played the piano or the violin, I don't remember, both. And she was a publicity hound. The only difference between her and the current, quote, publicity hounds is she actually could act. She was a good actor.
Oh, my goodness.
So she thrived on publicity because of her looks, but she was easy to work with because she wanted to have publicity, and she wanted to expand her movie career. She was working at 20th Century Fox. There was a movie that was that Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter. I remember that movie. And that's how we happened to be in touch with her. So it was easy to work with her. It was one of the most fun things. And the thing is, believe it or not, I have to go into details. We were promoting turkeys for the California Turkey Advisory Board, run by the state of California. Our job was to get people to eat turkey the year round instead of just at Thanksgiving. And we formed a slogan, anytime is turkey time. And we were promoting in the newspapers and on radio, telling people about turkey, but the butchers did not cooperate. Turkeys were bulky and big and hard to handle, and they just didn't join us. And I was worried, all the advertising in the world doesn't mean a thing if they don't feature it in the market.
Right.
And we were very worried about it. We were getting good publicity. And so, frankly, what could we do with the butchers? Well, I used to visit the markets, and the butchers had a little office in the back, and they had pictures and bulletins on the wall. And I figured out, if I can get a sexy girl that looks pretty darn sexy and have something to do with turkey, maybe they'll think of turkey the year round. Believe it or not, it worked fantastically.
And you used Jane Mansfield for that.
Well, we saw her on a TV show cutting the ribbon with a little group, a musician group, and she was cutting a ribbon for Market Basket, which was one of the chains in those days.
I remember that.
I saw her, and I said, gee, this would be fantastic if we could get her. And so I called up a friend of mine at 20th Century Fox, whom I'd worked with before, and I said, I heard that Jane Mansfield's in this movie. I read about it in the Variety. He said, yes. I said, do you think I could get her to promote turkeys? He says, hey, it would be great for us. We could use the publicity for the movie. He said, however, she's got a very strong manager, Jim Byron, a tough guy, a manager of publicity. He says, it's okay with me. If you can get Jim Byron to okay it, he said, I'd appreciate it. It just so happened we had an apron that we developed, a paper apron that said, how about a turkey barbecue? And so I figured if we could put an apron on her and take a picture, we would get a lot of publicity with the consumers, but we'd also get publicity with the butchers.
Sure.
So that's how it worked out. Man, the turkey processors told me that photo, not only did we put the photo in all of the grocery magazines, but we sent 100 prints to the major butchers in California, Arizona, and Nevada, and we sent them a little note anytime it's turkey time, what Jane Mansfield says, and 90% of them put the picture up on their wall, so they thought about turkey every day. And that did more for us that year than almost anything else we did. And you know what? It cost me 24 turkeys.
That's all.
He wanted $3,500 that they got the night before. I said, no way, we don't have that kind of money. We have to pay for the photographer and the match service, releasing. So we bargained over the phone. He was a nice guy. We talked and talked. He didn't want anything for himself. So he says, how about a year's supply of turkeys? I had to do some arithmetic in my head, and I said, okay, 2 turkeys a month.
That's really amazing. Do you know if at that time the turkeys were processed or were they minimally processed?
No, they were a lot for year round. A lot of them were fresh turkeys year round and frozen, fresh and frozen.
But did they have preservatives? Sometimes they.
No way. They didn't use. They didn't know about preservatives in those. They didn't use antibiotics in those days. Later on, they did, but most of the turkey growers did not. The chicken growers did. But no, sir. In those days, they didn't use antibiotics in the feed. They didn't know anything about that. So in fact, just on a side note, when I had Miss Turkey on the Steve Alyn show, and he was such a bright, brilliant guy.
Oh, he was.
And we kidded around with the turkeys and everything, and then he said, he himself said, Jane and I eat turkey all the time because it's high in protein and low in fat. That was which it is. It was
right.
The highest form of protein, lowest of fat in the industry on the meat product. So turkey was healthy.
What was your favorite client in all the years? Favorite food client? I know you worked with Mrs. Cubbinson's dressing for 60 years. I know that, but you must have had one particular favorite standout of all the food clients that you had. Either you liked the flavor or you just thought they were a hoot to work with. Let me tell you, I'm kind of a eccentric. A lot of the products that I got over the years, I didn't like myself. I had Pacific Coast oysters, and I didn't eat oysters. And I had, let me tell you this, and they were my favorite client.
I had the Denmark Cheese Association.
Oh.
Now, I'm allergic to cheese. I'm lactose intolerant. I always was. My brother and I, both of us, didn't eat dairy products. And the cheese made me sort of sick to my stomach, the smell of it. So they were the nicest people. They had the Caroline girls. They were like airline stewardesses that came from Denmark. They were dressed in costumes, and they were demonstrating cheese. Here I was promoting. I had the account for 15 years. I was promoting Danish cheese. They were beautiful people. I loved them. They were so nice, and the products were so good. But nobody knew that I wasn't eating cheese.
I think that's very funny. Who is the hardest celebrity for you to work with? I mean, you've worked with, Richard Harris and Cesar Romero and Wayne Newton, and it goes on and on. George Foreman, way before his grill. Who is the most difficult celebrity for you to work with?
Let me tell you something. I didn't have any difficult celebrities because if they were difficult, I didn't work with them. I mean, if they said no or they weren't interested, I walked away. So I honestly can't say if they wanted publicity, and most of them wanted publicity as desperately as I did. If they wanted publicity and I said, I can do something for you if you can do something for me, that was my theory. Let me help you and you help me.
And it still works today.
And if they said no or walked away, forget it.
And
so they would all ask me who my favorite is, then I might come up with some very interesting ones for you.
I'm really curious because we only have a minute or two left. Leo, you're 95 years old. You're still active. What's your secret to being in business for well over 60 years and running a very successful company?
I think my secret was I loved what I was doing. I couldn't wait to get to the office. I was the first one there and the last one to leave. I have two sons that were in the business, and my oldest son is a musician, and he used to help us with lyrics and music. So it was a family job, a family corporation. But I loved my work so much, and I remember my dad loved his work, and my mother loved his work, loved her work. I loved what I was doing.
What did your father do?
To get to the office. I stayed all night, and on weekends I would think about what I was going to do Monday. So I just loved what I was doing.
What did your dad do? What was your father?
My dad was a silk manufacturer in New Jersey, but then due to a crooked partner, he lost it, and we came to California in 1937, and my dad bought a grocery store. He knew nothing about it, and he learned the business. And I went to college, and I worked my way through college working in my dad's store, and he loved what he was doing, and so I loved what I was doing, and that's how it developed. And a bunch of my friends, my age group, would say, "What are you working so hard? Why don't you quit?" I said, "Why should I quit? I enjoy what I'm doing."
Well, I think that's the secret of longevity, loving what you do. The book is called Adventures in PR by Leo Pearlstein, and Leo was kind enough to ask me to write something on the back of the book, and it's Leo Pearlstein, and here's what I wrote. Leo Pearlstein is the public relations Indiana Jones. You can go to latenighthealth.com and look up Leo Pearlstein, and you'll be able to see how to get his book. All right, Late Night Health continues with Robert Clancy. More coming up.